Hi guys, it's Locked Queen Bee and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so in this video, we're actually going to be doing a follow-up to my Braidloc Extensions video. And I'm super excited to be doing this video for you guys because I know it's been such a long time since I did the first video. And we do have a lot of updates and a lot of information to share, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is why I redid this set. So if you followed my first video, you know that I installed my first set in February 2022. And I think in July or August, something like that, I ended up taking my set down. So why did I do that? So there was nothing wrong with my hair per se that made me take out that set. I was just in a emotional space where I needed something to do, and so I knew that taking down my hair was going to be a process. It was going to give me something to focus on, and so I kind of made that decision to take down my first set. So what was the takedown process like? It was actually like the worst takedown I've ever done. And the reason for that is because I was basically doing a takedown twice. So what I had to do is take out my extensions, and then I had to undo all of the interlock portions of my hair. Luckily, when I was taking down the extensions, the braid of my own hair was coming out as well, so all I had left to do was an interlocked portion. I think by that point I had done maybe 3 or 4 rotations already, so there was a good amount to unlock. So I do want to go ahead and add in here that I didn't actually take down the interlocked portion. It was too much work, so I just left my hair, my actual hair how it was, and just added new extensions on top. Yeah, well, let's talk about what I learned from that first set. So around July or August, I started to notice that I had some locks that were just slipping out. And what I noticed from looking at the locks that slipped out was that the very top inch of the braid was what was unraveling. So the rest of the braid would be intact, but it was just the root that was unraveling. And so I have no idea why that was happening. Obviously, I hope that with crocheting the extension here through the root, that would kind of prevent that from happening. But I think in areas where the braids were not as tight as they could have been, especially where I added the extension, is what caused the hair to unravel, and then it kind of just worked its way up and then the braid fell out. So I had that happen maybe 5 or 10 times. It wasn't a big deal, but I did just want to point that out because it wasn't something that I was expecting to happen. And you know, sometimes I think there was 2 times where I looked down and there was a braid on the floor, and so I wasn't really expecting to see that. Luckily, it's just a quick fix. You know, you fix whatever was wrong with your hair first, go ahead and crochet the hair and braid it back up. Super easy to fix. The other thing that I want to point out is that you definitely want to be diligent when you're washing your hair. So I noticed that on Braids That Speaks page, she basically says that you can kind of like wash your hair without braiding and banding, and I did do that a few times. I personally would not recommend it. I feel like that is what caused some of my braids to loosen up and slip out. So for me, I would rather braid and band than just washing my hair loose. One thing I have started to do differently is I have started to braid and band and do less braids. So before I would probably do like 15 to 20 braids. Now I kind of cut it down to about 10 braids, and so it's easier for me to put the braids in, wash my hair, and take them down. I definitely am not the person who wants to sit there taking 20 braids out. That's super annoying. So whatever I could do to make that process easier definitely helped. The other thing I want to speak on is lint. Oh my god. I pointed out in the first video that I definitely had a lot of lint on my end. I did not notice lint from my first set of locks, which was completely all of my hair, no extensions added. So I think it really has something to do with this type of hair that I'm using. You can see here that I have a lot of lint. I have tried dyeing my hair, and I've never dyed my hair before, so I didn't really prep properly. I have a white counter. I have black hair dye, kind of got all over the place. I had to figure out how to wipe that up. Luckily, my mom dyes her hair, so she was kind of able to help me navigate that. I personally would probably never dye my hair again. It was just too much of a process that I didn't really enjoy. So something that I have been doing is I have been using temporary hair color spray on my hair. That definitely works. However, let me show you. So this is the brand that I've been using. It's a dark brown. I actually just need to use black because it does color my ends, but it doesn't get the lint enough to where you don't see the lint anymore. So I definitely need to use black, but this works well. I did use another brand, I think it's called Takedown. Let me see if I can find the hair dye. So when I dyed my hair, this was the first product that I used, and it really barely did anything for my hair. But I did see that they had a spray-on temporary color that I got black, and it was awful. It left this weird coating on my hair that I didn't notice with this brand, so I definitely would not recommend that. I'm gonna pay attention the next time I do the temporary color spray to see if I still get that kind of like crunchy, disgusting feel that of whatever was coating my hair. Obviously it's the product, but I just don't know what is in that product that gives it that feel. So I literally sprayed my hair on. I literally sprayed the Takedown temporary hair color on my ends, and I had to like go through it to like separate, which is annoying because my ends were sticking together, and it was just a gross feeling of having that product on my hair. So I ended up washing it out like 10 minutes after I put it in. My hair felt much better, so I definitely won't be using that brand again. But I still am going to temporarily color my hair when I go out because there's sometimes when I don't care that people can see this lint, but if I'm going somewhere and I want to kind of look nicer, I'll just go ahead and color the end so it doesn't look as bad. The other thing I want to point out when dyeing my hair, so when I used this and then the black version of it, not the same brand, but I used dye where I actually know how to apply it, let it sit, and then rinse it out. So that product that I used, I noticed that it kind of blew out my ends a little bit, and I did have my ends sticking together. So I know that is an issue when you have like newly locked hair. You don't want to dye it because it's gonna cause the locking process to be delayed. So that is definitely something that I noticed with dyeing my hair. I didn't notice that too much as far as my ends being blown out with the first brand, this brand, but with the second brand, I can definitely see that like ruining my locks just because of how it's making my hair stick together. It was just a really gross feeling, so I'm not doing that again. So hopefully this portion of the video helps address the lint issue that I was having. And if you guys are experiencing that as well, just go ahead and share with me what you're doing to cover lint, or if you're just leaving it as is, that's totally fine too. So I want to jump into the next topic. So it's obviously been a long time since I did my first video, and I just want to talk about why that is. So I really enjoyed my hair. I didn't really feel like much was changing month to month. So I probably won't be doing monthly updates. I'll probably do maybe 6 months update, 1 month update. Being that this is my first video with this set, I think it makes sense to do a 6 month update video just to see where this set is in 6 months. I think right now I'm at my second month, so possibly in 4 months I could do a follow-up video to this video. In terms of updates, one thing I do want to bring up is I definitely plan to trim my ends as it grows out. Right now, being that this is a fresh set, there's really not much to cut. Right now, I feel like I'm at my goal length. Obviously, it would be nice if I could get it even longer, but I want it to be mostly my hair, so we'll just see how that goes. But as far as like making any changes to my hair, that's really going to be the biggest thing that I do, which is cut off the end. I do want to talk about something though in terms of update. So in my first video, I said that I wasn't happy with my grid just because I realized that in the nape there were 2 rows that kind of didn't line up, and then up here on the left side my rows didn't line up as well. So I was able to fix that, which I'm super happy about. So the mistake I made is that when I took out my first set, I obviously just had my hair, and that was the perfect time to fix whatever was going on the left side of my head because I didn't have as much hair to work with. It's super hard to correct your hair when you have these extensions in just because of the time that goes into taking it out. Obviously, I just cut it down to here and then take it out from there, but it's still a process, especially when you're doing several locks. So I did that. I took down my hair. I wanted to make corrections, but I got super frustrated just with the fact that I was basically doing 2 takedowns. I didn't correct anything, I put my locks back in, and so it was still bothering me that my locks weren't perfect. So I was able to, it took me, I want to say 6 to 7 hours just to correct maybe 10 to 15 locks on this side. So it was definitely a process. So let's show you that section right now. I do want to point out that it's not perfectly lined up just because I didn't want to make too many changes to the point where whatever I was changing, I was gonna have to go back and fix because it was just not working out. Especially with me, what I wanted to do was take out a row, fix it, put my locks back in, and then correct the next row. That would not have worked because if I needed to make changes after I took out as much hair as I needed to make the changes that I wanted, I just didn't want to have to do double the work, if that makes sense. Let me just show you what my hair looks like now. So I think this is the first section and this is the back section. So being that my hair was just interlocked, hopefully you can see the rows a little bit better. But what I corrected was down here, I had 2 rows feeding into 1. Now I basically have, at least down here, I have every row going into the next row on the back, or into the row continues basically. The issue is up here, I do have 2 rows feeding into 1. For some reason, I just have too much hair on this side that I can't combine those 2 rows into 1, because that row is just going to be too thick in terms of thickness this way, because the rest of my rows are going to be like this and that other row is going to be way too thick. So it has to be 2 rows. So I made that change. I kind of did the same thing on the right side. I got rid of a row, and so I probably took about maybe 4 or 5 locks out on this side, definitely 4 or 5 locks on this side. And then as for the nape, I had basically 1 lock that I was able to split into 2, but in order to do that, I needed to change 1 lock in 2 or 3 rows as well. So I think everything looks better now. I'm super happy that I went ahead and made that change. I know that my grid is not perfect, it's not gonna be perfect, but I definitely wanted it to look like it was done by a professional, if that makes sense. And so I'm glad I made the changes. It definitely took me a long time to do the changes I mentioned here, and then the nape. So I would say that I probably spent 20 hours just correcting those things. It was definitely worth it for me, but if you are someone who wants to make changes to your locks as well, know that it is a process. You are gonna have to commit some long hours to make those changes, so keep that in mind. So one thing I want to backtrack to is installing the second set. So I used my pre-existing grid. I do feel like it took a lot longer to install this set. I was definitely regretting the process to take down my hair because, oh my god, it was super annoying. I made sure that I had all of the hair that I needed before I started installing this set of extensions. I think I ordered about 15 packs, if not more. So I definitely had more than enough to do this installation. It was just super annoying because I felt like it took longer than the first time. I don't know if it actually did or not, but it was just such an annoying process. I'm definitely glad that I did it because I do want this length that I have right now, but the process was annoying, very annoying. So I definitely spent long hours putting this set in. I feel like I used a lot more hair than I did the first time because the first time my braids, like my hair that was braided, those braids were like really fresh and they were also really thin. Whereas with this time, I had some interlocked portions of my hair. So those had gotten thicker with them being interlocked, which is supposed to happen. So my hair swelled a little bit. And then, so I would have a interlocked portion and then a skinny braid at the end, which is fine. That's what's gonna happen when you have braidloc. So I felt like I used more hair to kind of match the thickness of the interlocked portion with hair added on top of it. So I feel like I used a lot more hair, and then I definitely did this set a lot longer. So my hair is just under my shoulder blade. I swear when I finished, my hair was like right about here, but it wasn't even, so I ended up cutting it. And I also don't want my hair that long anyway, so at least to start with. So I did cut my hair, but that added to the time just because I had to braid down so far. Also, one thing I talked about in the first video, well, I'm not sure if I talked about this in the first video, but there are places where you can see right here, there's places where I did not use as much hair as I should have when adding the extension. So I still have a lot of braids that look like this. Initially with my first set, I was just taking them down and kind of correct it. Now what I'm just doing is I'm just gonna crochet it and kind of like tuck as much of that hair into the braid as much as possible and just kind of like leave it how it is. If there's some areas that are worse and the hair is just sticking out really bad, I'll just go ahead and fix it too, because I don't want there to be a weak spot in the braid, because the hair, my hair that's slipping out was part of the braid. So it's kind of like ruining the foundation if all of that hair slipped out. Anyway, so yeah. So I definitely could have done a better job with this set, with installing it and just making sure that I used enough hair once I got past my hair and was just extension hair. So you can see, let's see if I can find a piece. So here you can see that this is basically where my hair stops, right here. The braid right here, this is actually thinner than what's up here, I believe. This one's a little bit harder to tell just because of how thin this one is. You can see here, so you can see this is my hair and extension, my hair sticking out a little bit, and then all of this is just extension hair. This could have been a little bit thicker to match the top portion of my locks. So yeah, let me show you the back so you can see it. It's a little bit more obvious in the back, and it's a combination of me braiding too tightly and then also not using enough hair once I got to like the ends of my hair, just to kind of like make it a more seamless transition between my hair and the extensions to just extension hair. So what we're looking at here is just how these braids kind of like crinkle a little bit. That is because of how I braided. So, and in the back, I did use, you can see this one here. In the back, I did use the 2 colors, so you're gonna notice that it's a different color back here. Now I'm just gonna show you my hair 360. That I could have done differently is I wish I could have done the nape a little bit bigger and this front portion of my hair a little bit bigger. Right now I think I have probably maybe like 400 locks, 405, between that range. Obviously I was trying to cut it down so I could have under 400. But I wish that I had done my nape a little bit bigger, just so I don't have those really tiny locks. You can see that on my edges. This side is thinning in terms of thickness compared to the other side. My hair has always been that way, especially with damage from like relaxers and braids. I know that it's been long enough that I haven't had my hair braided by a actual braider and I haven't had relaxers, but between the damage from that and the damage from me constantly putting them up and taking them down, I feel like this area has thinned out a little bit more. I do plan to use the crown elixir. I still have a bottle left, but I wanted to let this set get settled first before I started using that. So I have some really tiny locks here. I have them on this side as well, but they feel a little bit bigger and denser than they do on the other side. So I wish that I could have done this front part a little bit bigger, but because on this side my hair is not as thick, I feel like it would have been a little bit harder to do that because I would have needed like a thicker row compared to hair that's more areas of my hair where I have more density, just to match the density of like the denser sections, if that makes sense. So yeah, so hopefully with the crown elixir those areas can fill in and just be a little bit more sturdy in terms of a solid foundation. So yeah, so I was just looking at my notes, and one thing I forgot to mention with my installation, so being that I did not have, when I did my first set I was still working, but I think I don't know what I did as far as time off, but because the installation felt so much longer, it took me a really long time to have most of my hair done. So what I did this time was I started in the front. So I did this front section, and then I did maybe like the top quarter so that I could put my hair in a ponytail. And it was really cute. I did two ponytails, ouch. I did two ponytails, and then I just twisted the ends and the back, and that looked really good. So I did not do that the first time around. The first time around I did the back and worked my way up. This time I did the reverse just because I knew that it was going to be taking me a long time, and I want to be able to still go out and not have to really worry about my hair. So that was good to do. The other reason I did it that way was because I needed to take a picture for my driver's license, and I knew that this right here, what you see, is most important. So I definitely wanted to have the front down for that reason. So yeah, I really don't have anything else to tell you. I had been wanting to do this video for a while. I finally had some, I don't want to say free time, but I actually felt motivated to do this video. So I'm on camera, I'm talking about everything that I've been through since installing this set in, I think, August or September. And I really am loving this hair. I'm glad that I did it. I know that there's a lot of talk about using extensions when it comes to locks. If you are someone who has short hair and you want to have longer hair, definitely go ahead and use extension. Do your research. I have 2 videos linked in the first video that helped me with this installation method. I personally have never recorded myself actually installing it, but I think those other videos I think are going to be super helpful, so definitely check that out. Again, if you want to have longer hair, definitely commit the time to putting in these extensions. If you want to go to somebody else to have them done, totally fine. Go ahead and spend the money on that. I did have someone who was watching this video, they attempted to do this and they just got really frustrated, so they ended up having someone else do it, and they used the crochet method. So hopefully they love their set, they're really happy with it. But I hope this video inspires all of you guys to go ahead and do whatever it is you want to do with your hair. If you want to dye it, if you want to install an extension, or if you just really want to know how to establish a grid, go ahead and do all of those things that you want to do. Make sure you do your research first, and I hope you guys have a good lock journey. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.